Hello, just want to take another time to visit again. Um, Doing a little of this today for our friends from the north, a little bit of snow. We do that just to keep them from crying too much from all the nice weather we have down here in the south. So just kind of remembering you a little bit. I want to do a little bit of a different video today. I did a video 2 or 3 years ago where I talked about practical terms on how through prayer and a pretty stringent diet and a focus how the Lord allowed us to overcome cancer 10 years ago. It was very practical on how to diet and so forth. And, for me, I don't do a lot of Facebook following, but had over 4,000 views. It was just a really practical video. And I'd like to do that today. I'd like to just take a real practical time, talk about a subject that's kind of there for us. And I'd like to just talk about the time we're in and actually just doing practical preparations. And so I don't want you to hear this as some sort of biblical end time type thing. These are the type of things that lots of people do at different times and talk about, you know, in light of what we're facing and stuff and so forth, it's probably wise to have 4+ weeks of food and preparations and things that are so that just in case we have a disruption, what might it look like? What be some practical steps? And that's what I like to look at. I just like the practical steps in case we have some disruption. And to tell you the truth, I think this weekend is a good time to do that. I think we're in a context where uh, unanticipated violence has advanced significantly in 2020. So we had obviously the whole summer of violence, but we kind of understood that a little bit. But what came out on January 6th at our Capitol, I think threw us, I don't know anybody that didn't throw for a loop, causing us to have some serious readjustments. And now we're looking at alerts and so forth that we could have even larger disruptions on the 20th of January. Locally and in different places. So it's just a good time to sit down and say, hey, let's just, honey, how we doing? What if there was a disruption? What kind of situation would we be in? And so I want to just make two scriptural references before I just deal with practical details. And one is there's two different ways to look at this. The scripture in Proverbs 27 verse 12 says the prudent. Now, a prudent person, that word simply means wise thought before action. A prudent person sees a potential evil and hides himself. In other words, what it's saying, a prudent person sees a context where there could be a disruption, there could be some problems, and when it says it hides itself, the way I'd see that is they shield themselves. They either pull aside physically or they pull aside in some way so that they avoid what could be this interruption that's coming. And it says the fool doesn't do that. The fool, the naive, the simple, the one who doesn't think through things, simply sees or doesn't see a difficulty but makes no adjustment. They just simply go right on, and it says, and they suffer from it. And so, like I said, I'm going to say this a few times. I'm asking you this weekend to sit down. Some of you are way down on the road on this. You've got all kinds of things prepared for your family and protection or whatever it might be. And I'm just asking you, is it all up to snuff? Is it all ready to go? And to examine that this weekend. And I'm asking actually some of you who might not have given this consideration, because we're all in this continuum, is you might give some thought to some of these things while you have this particular unique space. The other one is the scripture where Jesus talks about the virgins, wise and foolish. Again, it's almost the same thing, because it talks about that the wise virgins, they took their oil in their lamp and they took a flask and they went about their business. The foolish virgins just took the oil in their current lamp, no additional backup. So here, and when the bridegroom came, obviously good for some, bad for some others, but you might say in any case it was a time of tension. And so a time of tension came along, and the ones who actually had their oil in their lamp had enough for daily life, everything that's going on daily, but they had no backup. They had no alternative step back, a flask of preparation. What's in the flask? Preparation. You can apply it to whatever you want. They did fine. The foolish just had what they were doing every single day, no preparation like the fool in Proverbs. They just made no adjustments for something that might come along. And to tell you the truth, it didn't go too good for them. So I want to switch now. I just want to talk about general some things you can do to prepare. Again, I want to make this very, very practical. Is that in the very most elementary form of supplies, I'd encourage you just go online. That's where you'll get all your details. If you want detailed lists, go online, and that'll include general supplies. Some things you want to have on are matches, candles, flashlights, batteries, duct tape, the whole list of whatever is in your household that you need to have on hand as a backup in a significant way. Another thing is, and again, some of you are way down the road on this, but you want to have all medicines, every prescription. If there's preventive things you take, if there are things that you might have a condition that shows up every 4 or 5 years or whatever, have whatever that is and have that well in advance and have that at a place where it's ready supplied. You just want to have all that thought through and in place before things can happen. Now, going a little bit further in the list, so again, look online for a lot of that. But just giving some thought, because I want to trigger ways to think. If we are in a situation, and I'm going to kind of come from maybe one of the worst case scenarios of like, what if there's no electricity and you need a generator? Well, there's generators out there. Honda makes a good little generator, but here's some thoughts if you're dealing with alternative forms of electricity. If you're planning on not having electricity, well then you'll have to find your own list. But with a generator, in our house, one of the things we have is I have a pump in my well that needs to pump obviously my well. I have a pump that pumps my septic field uphill into a field. I also have a furnace, and you've got a refrigerator and a freezer. So now think about it. If you've got a small generator, how are you going to run a lot of that stuff that's in your house? Now again, don't go to fear. If you're going, don't go to fear. I'm not trying to do anything that's fear-based. It's practical application on how to be wise. And so if you got a generator, you're going to have it outside, so then you're going to need a fair amount of extension cords, but just give it a thought. How much time you're going to be able to hook up your freezer, how much time you're going to hook up your refrigerator, how much you're going to, all these different things, and if they're all different extension cords, you just might want to think about what that's going to look like going forward. Another thing is I would encourage everything that's electronic, your drills, your batteries, have everything that's all charged, ready to go. So you don't have to sit around worrying about charging. And as far as fuels, have your gas tanks filled, have some gas cans out there, chainsaw oils, whatever might be fuel-based, you want it to be full. Little side thing, I'd encourage rolls of plastic. I mean, to think about it, rolls of plastic can catch water, can catch rainwater and gather water around. You can actually use it to create little lean-tos to put extra supplies in and so forth. And so things like camping gear, tents, ropes, shovels, cook stoves, Coleman lanterns, hatchets, all that kind of stuff that might be, some of you live in the city, some of you live in the woods, and some of you in between. But that kind of stuff that if all of a sudden you have to be in your exterior environment, that you're not all of a sudden handicapped and just left inside all the time. Now, switching a little bit, I just want to talk a little bit about water, because water is going to be very, very crucial. If you don't have electricity, running out of water, you definitely want to have water on hand, bottled water, bought water, however you want to do it. But you actually have 30 to 50 gallons of water in your hot water heater. But give some thought, some creative thought. You've got gutters. Every one of you got gutters on your house. And without a lot of modification, but again, you don't want to all of a sudden do this in the hour when the groom's coming and it's night and you got to go out to the cellars, because the people who didn't prepare right now, you can do all this in a comfortable, casual environment at your own time, and your money's worth your own thing, as opposed to the ones who weren't wise. They had to go out in the middle of the night and deal with the dealers. And so now it's time to give some thought. You can alter your gutters and you can catch a lot of water. Have a barrel, have a bucket, whatever it is that you want to do, but be in a place where you can catch and to some degree purify water that comes off your roof. Wrong time of year for this, but kids' pools. I mean, they're sold everywhere. You would not believe what you can buy in a kid's pool that's like 12 feet across or 10 feet across, 2 or 3 feet deep. You can get, I don't know, but you can get a couple thousand gallons of water in there and just kind of have it around, cover it up and so forth. Great places to have a good deal of reserve of water. And water is obviously important for a lot of reasons. This might be a little bit of a silly application, but if you don't have electricity, You know, how are you going to go to the bathroom? That's going to be a bit of a challenge. Well, you just get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, buy an endless supplies of plastic bags that you slip inside that bucket, go to Home Depot, buy yourself a toilet seat, and it's like, realistically, it can be clean as a whistle all the way through. It's just a matter of thinking through things that are part of your life on a regular basis. Now, I'm going to switch here. I'm going to go to food. You know, there's personal level of food for you, and then there's a context of bulk food as well. What I encourage people to do is whether you're at Costco or um, Sam's or any sort of place like that where you can buy strong, is I'd encourage you to buy a month or 2 month, whatever it is, of what you eat. I'll talk about freeze-dried food in a minute, but whatever you eat, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever need to sustain a healthy, integrated, organic for a lot of people diet, buy it. But bulk up a bit. You know, you can get canned meats, canned fishes, nuts, you know, rice bags, all of that stuff you can get in that place. A secondary tier where I go a little bit more for bulk is you can buy a tremendous amount for very, 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 very little at a Walmart. And in that context, it starts to enter into like, well, actually, who are you going to be feeding? And so there, believe me, for $400 or $500, you can have a lot of refried beans, pinto beans, you know, packages of lentils and so forth. So those are two good places, and I'd encourage you, if you don't have a month to 2 months worth of food, I'd encourage you this weekend to give some thought. Because we are, if I mean, what better time? Not from a place of alarm, not from a place of any of that, not hoarding to just take care of yourself, just what the scriptures talk about. A prudent person sees a potential difficulty, and they do something about it. So I'd encourage you this weekend, get out and work through some stuff, and or just make a shopping trip and go out and get some supplies. Now, another thing I'm going to add, and I'm going to start to wrap up here, is I'd encourage you to have a backpack for each member of your family. For that would be for adults, children, whatever it might be, and in that space have matches, flashlight, 2 or 3 days worth of food, whatever it might take to for each child or whatever, a heat blanket, something to deal with rain, just something in case you're outside your house for a few days or even a brief thing. You've got something that's right there that's individualized for each individual. Another thing I would encourage you, don't have everything you've got in one place. Have different supplies in a few different places. Some inside, some outside, you know, just I think that's a wisdom factor. And I'm going to wrap up with this. You know, a few months ago, I was meeting with some landowners and probably 10 guys in there and wives. Probably had about 500 acres of land. And so it's a bit different if you're a landowner or if you're a parent or grandparent of grown children. You're probably in a place then where you've got a place where people might come. And so two things. If you're in a spot where you're in a city or a difficulty and you feel like, boy, if things got tough, I'm going to go someplace. And if you got somebody in mind, let me encourage you, don't just show up. That's not responsible. So two things. If you're a person who's going to wind up providing in a sense, and you've got an idea who might be coming to your place, get in touch with them. Give them a list. Don't let them just show up with nothing. Communicate. And again, like I said, if you're planning to go somebody's place or something and they don't know about it, that's very, very, that's like the steward here who didn't have anything figured out. So again, I just wanted to be practical, give some tips. There's a lot more things that a lot of you have done. And I'm not so much in this video wanting to include everything that's needed. I want to simply spike some interest and some focus now in that we are in a season, biblical stuff aside, we are in a season where our nation is hitting some challenging times. And you want to be part of the solution, you know, whether it's living for others, having whatever you have is for others, but we're here to be part of the solution. And that's going to take some wide stewardship. And as you have wide stewardship, that's the best way to, that's an additional way to stay away from fear. It's a different way to stay away from hoarding. You know, people can get into hoarding, but to tell you the truth, I think if we've got a Christian value, we're there for other people. And so let's be there. Let's prepare for other people. And if this is helpful, great. But I'd encourage you this: if this is helpful to you, if it's I want to stir some thinking. I just want you to think about your house, what's going on, what could happen with prayer and whatever God might do. But if this is helpful to you and you want to share it, then I realize a lot of people have gone off Facebook, and I'm not doing that at this point. I'll do other stuff. But if this has helped you, maybe share it with some other people. So hope you have a good day and pray up for next week. Bye.